Syria, October 2019. The rooftop was dying. Not metaphorically, not in some poetic sense that made death easier to swallow. The concrete was literally disintegrating under sustained automatic weapons fire. Each burst from the street below sent chunks of masonry spiraling into the night sky. Dust hung in the air like fog, the kind that got into your lungs and stayed there. The kind you'd cough up for weeks if you were lucky enough to live. Lieutenant Ashton Reeves pressed herself flat against what remained of the southern wall. Her breathing came in controlled cycles. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. The rhythm her father had taught her when she was 12 years old, when the world was simpler and targets were just paper. 30 hostile fighters surrounded the building, maybe more. The math didn't work. It never had. 6 Marines, 6 against 30. The radio was dead. The extraction helicopter was 20 minutes out. They had maybe 5 minutes before the enemy breached the stairwell. Then it would be over, quick or slow depending on ammunition and luck. Corporal Bennett Cross lay 3 feet to her left, 24 years old, Montana ranch kid with a smile that could disarm anyone except the people currently trying to kill him. He was her spotter, her partner, the man who'd read wind better than meteorologists with satellites, who'd kept her alive through 4 deployments and 189 confirmed eliminations. He met her eyes across the rubble. No words needed. They'd had this conversation before. In Fallujah, in Helmand, in a dozen other places that didn't exist on maps politicians reviewed, places where the math never worked and you made decisions that would haunt you forever. We jump. Ashton's voice was steady, professional, like she was ordering coffee instead of suicide. Bennett looked over the edge, 40 feet to the alley below, concrete landing, no padding, no safety net, just physics and prayer. That's a 3-story drop, Ash. We'll shatter every bone in our legs. Maybe. Definitely. She worked the bolt on her rifle. Smooth. Practiced. 1 more magazine. 14 rounds. 14 against 30. The math still didn't work. Or we die here, guaranteed. Bennett checked the drop again. Checked the enemy advancing up the stairwell. Did the same impossible calculus she had. Came to the same terrible conclusion. He smiled. Grim. Ready. The kind of smile men wear when they've accepted what comes next. You're absolutely insane, Lieutenant. Yeah. Let's go. They ran together, partners, the way they'd done everything for 6 years, hit the parapet at the same moment, vaulted over at the same instant, 3 stories of empty air, time stretched, distorted, every millisecond expanding into something that felt like hours. Ashton saw details she shouldn't have noticed. Graffiti on the opposite wall, a discarded cigarette pack tumbling through the beam of a streetlight, Bennett's expression shifting from determined to terrified as gravity took hold. She hit first, tried to roll, failed. Both legs buckled wrong, tibia snapping like dry wood, fibula fragmenting. Pain exploded through her nervous system. White hot, absolute. The kind of pain that erases thought, erases identity, reduces you to nothing except nerve-ending screaming. She collapsed, couldn't move, couldn't breathe, could only lie there experiencing what broken felt like. Bennett landed beside her. Better form, better technique. He'd always been more athletic. Tumbled correctly, almost stuck it, almost. The first burst of gunfire caught him across the back. Body armor stopped most of it. 3 rounds, 4. The ceramic plates did their job. 1 round found the gap, below the shoulder blade, above the plate carrier. The precise vulnerable point that every enemy fighter learned to target. It punched through his lower spine. Bennett went down hard, tried to get up. Legs didn't respond. Nothing below the waist responded, just dead weight, dead nerves, dead future. No, Ashton crawled toward him, both legs useless, dragging herself through her own blood, through his blood, through the failure of physics and planning. No, no, no. Above them, hostile fighters appeared at the rooftop edge, weapons raising, 30 seconds until they were overrun. Maybe less. Bennett coughed, blood on his lips, eyes losing focus, shock setting in fast, the kind you didn't come back from. He found her hand, gripped it, fingers already cold. Ash, his voice barely a whisper. Don't let me be the last one you couldn't save. You're not dying. She pressed her hand against the wound, blood pulsing between her fingers. Too much blood. You're not, promise me. His grip tightened, desperate, final. Promise me, widow, promise. Widow, her call sign, the name she'd earned through 189 confirmed eliminations, the name that would die with him in this alley. I promise, Bennett, I swear, I swear, his hand went slack. 24 years old, Montana ranch kid. The best spotter the Corps ever produced. Gone. The enemy was 10 seconds out. Rappelling down the building, weapons trained, ready to finish what they'd started. Ashton had a sidearm. 15 rounds, 30 targets. The math still didn't work. She fired anyway, 7 times. 7 hostiles, down before the slide locked back, then waited for the end. It came as helicopter gunfire. The extraction team arriving late. Too late for Bennett, just in time for everyone else. Their door guns turned the alley into hell for anyone without American insignia. They pulled her out. Pulled Bennett's body out. Pulled the other 4 Marines out alive. Mission rated as success. High casualty rate. But acceptable losses. Acceptable. As if Bennett was a number. As if his last words didn't carve themselves into her soul. As if promises made in blood didn't count. Walter Reed Medical Center. 4 months later, 6 surgeries. Compound fractures, both tibias. Shattered left fibula. Severed ligaments. Nerve damage that made doctors use words like permanent and disability and medical retirement. Colonel Everett Whitmore visited on day 47. He sat beside her bed in dress blues that carried more ribbons than most flag officers accumulated in 30 years. Navy Cross, Silver Star, Purple Heart with 3 clusters, Bronze Star with Valor device. He'd earned all of them before Ashton was born. He'd also trained her, believed in her. Turned a Montana girl who'd never fired a gun before boot camp into the most lethal sniper the Marine Corps ever produced. Chechen warlord Khalid Bashar put 6 million on your head. His voice was quiet, conversational, like discussing the weather. Confirmed kill of his brother in Aleppo last year. Iranian intelligence added 4 million more. You eliminated their top operative in Baghdad. There are 12 separate bounties from 8 countries. He paused. Let that sink in. Total value $10 million for Widow 6. Dead. Proof required. Ashton stared at the ceiling. White tiles. Fluorescent lights. The sterile environment of people who'd never bled in foreign strits. I'm done anyway. Legs are destroyed. Can't run. Can't deploy. I'm useless. You're alive. That's not useless. That's opportunity. For what? Whitmore leaned forward. We stage a training accident. Closed casket funeral. Full honors. Widow 6 dies a hero. Ashton Reeves gets buried with classified records sealed. And then you get a new name, new identity, new life where nobody's trying to kill you. She thought about Bennett, about his last words, about promises made when the world was ending. Doing what I'm a sniper who can't walk. You're a combat medic who saved lives in 4 war zones. We retrain you, nurse practitioner, forward deployment medical support. You keep serving, just differently. The proposal hung in the air. Death and rebirth, the only path forward. If I do this, if I become someone else, I want to save lives, not take them, no more killing, just healing. Whitmore nodded once. Sharp. Final. Deal. Arlington National Cemetery. 6 weeks later. They buried Ashton Reeves with full military honors. Marine Honor Guard, 21 gun salute, flag presentation. The works. The coffin held sandbags and a dress uniform. Empty weight, empty sacrifice. Empty grave for a woman who'd stopped existing. Ashton watched from a distance. Civilian clothes, leaning on a cane she'd need for the rest of her life, or so everyone would believe. Colonel Whitmore stood beside her, silent, witnessing the death of a legend. Riley Brennan, he said quietly, that's your name now. Born in Portland, nursing degree from OHSU, 3 years civilian trauma experience before joining the Navy. Clean background, no red flags. And the limp, permanent nerve damage from a training accident, documented in your medical file. Real enough that doctors won't question it. Ashton tested the cane, put weight on her left leg, let it buckle slightly, caught herself. The performance had to be perfect, had to be permanent. 3 years of committed acting, 3 years of being broken, 3 years of saving lives instead of ending them. It was enough. It had to be enough. The burial detail fired their final salute. 21 rifles, 21 empty casings, 21 echoes across Arlington's sacred ground. Widow 6 was dead. Riley Brennan was born. Montana Wilderness, January 2024, present day. The Chinook's rotors beat winter air into submission. Inside the cargo bay, 18 Marines sat in jump seats wearing the particular tension of men heading somewhere they might not leave. Full combat loads, winter warfare gear. The quiet that settles over professionals before potential violence. And one woman who didn't belong. Riley Brennan sat in the corner, medical kit between her boots, left leg extended at the awkward angle she'd perfected through 3 years of obsessive practice. 31 years old, but looking older in the cargo bay's harsh light. Angular features that winter made sharper. Auburn hair pulled back tight enough to hurt. Pale gray eyes that reflected light without warmth. She looked exactly like what they expected. A nurse, competent but limited. Useful in the aid station, useless in a firefight. They didn't know, couldn't know, would never know unless circumstances forced her hand. Private Owen Sullivan sat 3 seats down, 22 years old. Fresh-faced kid from Ohio with a daughter he'd never held, 3 weeks old. Born while he was already deployed. He kept looking at his phone, at the photo that made him smile and hurt simultaneously. "They sent us a cripple." The voice came from across the bay. Corporal Dawson Fletcher, mid-20s, confident in the way people are when they've survived one deployment and think they're immortal. "What happens if we take contact and need to move fast?" Nobody answered, but the question hung there, uncomfortable. True. Riley didn't react. She'd learned not to. Learned to make herself small, forgettable, beneath notice. Learned to limp so convincingly that orthopedic surgeons believed the injury when they examined x-rays she'd carefully prepared. 3 years of playing broken. 3 years of being invisible. The skills that made her Widow 6 hadn't disappeared. They just found different applications. The Chinook touched down hard. Snow erupted in blinding clouds. The ramp dropped and cold rushed in like a physical assault. -18 Fahrenheit before wind chill. The kind of cold where breath froze in beards, where exposed skin turned black in minutes, where the world became actively hostile to human life. "Move, move." The loadmaster's voice cut through rotor wash. Marines flowed out in practiced formation. Smooth, professional, exactly like the training they'd done 1,000 times. Riley stood slowly, favoring her left leg, gripping the overhead rail for support that was entirely theatrical. Made it 3 steps before Staff Sergeant Cole Brennan brushed past, impatient with her slowness. She stumbled, deliberately, caught herself, limped down the ramp into the worst cold she'd felt since the lie began. The forward operating base was barely worthy of the name. Prefab structures half buried in snow. Fighting positions dug into frozen earth that resisted shovels like concrete. Camouflage netting strung between scraggly pines that looked dead even in summer. This was the kind of place that didn't exist on maps politicians saw. The kind of place men died without headlines. Captain Garrett Thorne stood near the command tent watching his unit assemble. 42 years old, career infantry. Face like weathered granite. Eyes that missed nothing and forgot less. He'd led men through Fallujah and Helmand and a dozen places that taught you which people could be trusted when the lights went out. Those eyes found Riley. Stayed there. Not with appreciation, with calculation. The assessment of a man adding weight to a scale already tipping wrong. She limped toward him through ankle-deep powder, medical kit heavy, making sure every step showed weakness, vulnerability. Exactly what they expected to see. "Captain Thorne," she stopped 3 feet away. Professional distance. "Nurse practitioner Brennan reporting as assigned, sir." He didn't salute. This wasn't that kind of operation. Just studied her like a problem he hadn't solved yet and didn't particularly want to. "You're the medical support they sent." Not a question, an accusation wearing questions clothing. "Yes, sir." That leg, combat injury. Riley had the story memorized. Had told it 60 times without variation. "Training accident, sir. Compound fracture, extensive nerve damage. Retrained as medical personnel afterward." "Can you run?" "No, sir." "Can you carry a combat load over distance?" "No, sir." His jaw worked, like he was chewing something bitter. "Then what exactly can you do for me out here, Brennan?" She met his eyes, kept her voice level, professional, empty of the pride that would have answered differently. "Keep your Marines alive, sir." "That's what I do. That's all I do." Thorne's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes, not acceptance, just the recognition that arguing wouldn't change the situation. "Staff Sergeant Brennan," he gestured to the NCO standing nearby, "get her set up in the medical bunker. When contact initiates, and it will, she stays there. We cannot spare combat personnel protecting someone who can't keep pace." Cole Brennan was 38, scar tissue where his left ear should have been. The kind of NCO who'd seen enough combat to know what mattered and what didn't. He gestured for Riley to follow. Voice dropping when they were out of Thorne's earshot. "Don't take it personal, ma'am. Captains just thinking tactically. Bodies that can't move are liabilities in mobile warfare. I understand completely, Sergeant. They walked in silence, her exaggerated limp, his patient pace matching hers, not out of kindness, out of professional courtesy for a fellow service member who'd been broken in the line of duty. The medical bunker was a reinforced dugout near the command post. Sandbags stacked shoulder high, timber supports, barely room for 3 people and the supplies already stacked inside. It smelled like dirt and old fear and the particular cold that seeps into places the sun never reaches. This is you, Cole pointed. During any engagement, you stay here. Captain's orders. Direct and non-negotiable. Riley nodded, set down her kit, took in the space with eyes that calculated fields of fire and escape routes and structural integrity. Habits that never died, just learned to hide better. Cole started to leave, paused at the entrance. You really think you can keep people alive out here, this far from support? This cold. She looked at him, let something true show in her eyes for just a fraction of a second. I've kept people alive in worse places, Sergeant. Under worse conditions, with less equipment, I'll manage. He studied her. Something in his expression shifted. Not understanding, just recognition that maybe she wasn't quite what she appeared. That still water sometimes ran very deep. Then he was gone. Riley stood alone in the bunker. Around her, the base came alive with coordinated activity. Marines establishing perimeter defenses. Sergeants barking coordinates and range estimates. Diesel generators coughing to reluctant life. All the sounds of men preparing for violence they hoped wouldn't come, but knew probably would. She unpacked her medical kit with practiced efficiency. Organized supplies by what she'd need first in mass casualty situations. Morphine, pressure bandages, surgical clamps, hemostatic agents, quick clot, chest seals. The tools of her chosen trade now, saving instead of ending, building instead of destroying. But beneath the medical supplies in a compartment she'd built herself, hidden by a false bottom that would fool any standard inspection, lay the pieces of who she used to be. Macmillan T AC-50, disassembled, each component wrapped in treated cloth. The rifle had traveled with her through 4 deployments, 7 countries, 189 confirmed eliminations. It had been hidden for 3 years in medical equipment, X-rayed by security personnel who never looked deep enough, never asked the right questions. You didn't stop being what you were. You just got better at pretending you'd forgotten. She didn't touch the components. Not yet. Maybe not ever if luck held. If circumstances stayed simple. If promises made to dead men didn't come due. Outside, snow began to fall. Thick, heavy, the kind that buried the world in white silence. 6 hours later, the briefing tent smelled like coffee and diesel fuel and the particular sweat that comes from stress rather than exertion. Captain Thorne stood at the front. Behind him, a tactical map showed terrain features and probable enemy positions. Red circles marking threats, blue squares marking friendly forces. The visual language of modern warfare. Riley sat in the back, quiet, taking notes in a small notebook. Medical considerations, evacuation routes, likely injury patterns based on terrain and tactics. Nobody paid attention to her. She was just the medic, just the broken woman who'd stay in her bunker when the shooting started. Intel suggests possible hostile activity in the sector. Thorne's finger traced a route on the map. Russian Spetsnaz operating across the border. Unconfirmed. But if they're here, they're professionals. Likely outnumber us 3 to 1. Murmurs around the tent. Concern, not fear. These were Marines. They'd trained for bad odds. Our mission is reconnaissance and readiness evaluation. We hold this position for 72 hours. Observe, record, report. No engagement unless compromised. He paused. Let that sink in. Questions. Owen Sullivan raised his hand, young, uncertain. Sir, if we are compromised, extraction time frame. QRF is on standby at Lewis McCord. 4 hours minimum in good weather. Current forecast shows a major storm system moving in. Could be 6, could be 8. The tent went quiet, everyone doing the same math. If they got hit, they were alone for half a day. Minimum. Thorne's eyes swept the room, stopped on Riley. Brennan, medical considerations. She looked up from her notes. Professional, calm. Hypothermia is primary concern, sir. Exposure injuries, frostbite. If we take casualties, cold will kill faster than bullets. Recommend rotating warming stations and continuous monitoring for early symptoms. Thorne nodded. Make it happen. Dismissed. Marines filed out. Riley stayed, organizing her notes, waiting until the tent emptied. Then she felt it, the presence behind her, the weight of observation. She turned. Colonel Everett Whitmore stood in the entrance, 68 years old, parka barely containing the ribbons underneath. He looked exactly like what he was, a legend, a ghost, the man who'd trained her, believed in her, helped her die and be reborn. Their eyes met, no words, no acknowledgement. Just the silent recognition between two people who shared history no one else could know, who'd stood together in places that didn't exist, done things that never happened, buried truths that would never surface. Then it was gone. Professional distance reimposed. Whitmore moved to Thorne. Handshake. Introduction, the formal dance of senior officers meeting subordinates. But Riley knew he was here for her, here to protect her cover, or here because he knew what was coming. Either way, nothing good. She gathered her notes and limped toward the exit, past Whitmore without looking at him, past the knowledge that her carefully constructed lie was about to be tested. Outside, the temperature had dropped to -21. The storm was coming, and with it something worse than weather. Something that would test whether 3 years of hiding had been enough. Whether Riley Brennan could stay buried, whether Widow Six could remain dead. The answer would be written in blood and snow, and impossible shots through a blizzard that should have made killing at distance a fantasy. But first there was the waiting, the preparation, the slow build of tension that every combat veteran recognized. The calm before angels fell from grace and rose from hiding. Riley returned to her bunker, sat among the medical supplies and the hidden rifle. Thought about Bennett, about promises, about the 18 Marines who had no idea what slept in their midst. The wind picked up, snow began to fall harder, visibility dropping, temperature dropping, the world becoming hostile, and somewhere in that hostile world, enemies moved closer. Professional, organized, carrying orders to eliminate the Americans before anyone knew they'd ever been there. The math didn't work. 18 Marines against unknown numbers in terrain that favored attackers. The math never worked. Unless someone impossible intervened. Unless promises mattered more than peace. Unless Widow Six woke up one more time. Riley closed her eyes, listened to the wind, felt the cold seeping through the bunker walls, and waited for the moment when everything she'd built would shatter. When the woman she tried to bury would claw her way back to the surface. When keeping one promise meant breaking another. The moment was coming. She could feel it in her bones. In the scar tissue where bullets had torn through. In the phantom pain of legs that had healed perfectly but pretended not to. Coming fast, like weather, like fate, like choices that couldn't be unmade. Bennett's voice echoed in her memory. Don't let me be the last one you couldn't save. Riley opened her medical kit, checked supplies, prepared for casualties that would test everything she'd learned, everything she'd become. And beneath it all, hidden in the false bottom, the rifle waited, patient as stone, ready for the moment when healing wouldn't be enough, when the only way to save lives was to end them. That moment was 6 hours away, but Riley Brennan didn't know that yet. She just knew the wind was getting worse, the cold was getting deeper, and promises made to the dying had a way of coming due when you least expected them. She closed the bunker flap against the storm and waited for the world to change. The storm arrived at 21:30 hours, not gradually, not with warning. One moment the night was clear enough to see stars. The next the world turned white and howling. Visibility dropped to 30 feet, then 20, then nothing except the person standing next to you, and sometimes not even that. Temperature plummeted, -22, -24, the kind of cold that stopped being a number and became a physical entity. Something that pressed against you, squeezed, tried to extract every calorie of warmth your body produced. Riley sat in her bunker listening to the wind scream. Medical supplies organized, aid station prepared. Nothing to do now except wait for casualties that would probably come. The radio crackled, Captain Thorne's voice cutting through static. All positions, heightened alert. We've lost aerial coverage. Rely on thermals and visual confirmation. If you see something, report immediately. Translation. They were blind. Whatever happened next would happen fast and close. Riley checked her watch. 2200 hours. The witching hour. When professional soldiers launched attacks because defenders were tired. Slow. Human. She thought about Bennett, about Syria, about the moment before everything went wrong. The radio exploded with noise. Contact, contact, northeast, multiple hostiles, heavy weapons. Automatic weapons fire tore through the night, not scattered. Not panicked, coordinated. Professional. The sound of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Riley grabbed her aid bag and moved to the bunker entrance. Couldn't see anything through the snow. Just muzzle flashes in the white chaos. Marines returning fire. Discipline holding despite the surprise. Then the screaming started. Corpsman, Corpsman up! She limped into the storm. Toward the voice. Toward the northeast fighting position where someone was dying. Found Corporal Dawson Fletcher on his back. 20 yards from his position. IED or mine. Left side shredded. Dozens of metal fragments punched through winter gear. Through body armor. Into flesh. Blood everywhere. Black against white snow. Cole Brennan was already there. Applying pressure to the worst wounds. His hands red, his face grim. Femoral artery, he said when Riley dropped beside them. I can't stop it. She could see the problem immediately. The fragment had severed the main artery in Fletcher's thigh, blood pulsing between Cole's fingers. Pressure wasn't enough. Tourniquet wouldn't work this high. This needed surgery. Here, in the snow, while the base was under attack. Get him to the bunker, Riley said. Voice calm, clinical, no hesitation. Now, they carried Fletcher through the case. Bullets cracking overhead, explosions in the distance. The particular sound of a defensive position being probed for weakness. Inside the bunker, Riley activated chemical lights. Sickly green glow filled the space, turned blood black. She cut away Fletcher's gear, layer by layer. Jacket, vest, shirt, exposing the damage. It was worse than she'd thought. Multiple fragment wounds, arterial bleed, possible internal injuries. In a hospital, this would take a surgical team. Here she had basic supplies in her hands. But her hands remembered. They'd done this before. In Syrian alleys, in Iraqi cities, in Afghan mountains. Places where you saved lives with whatever you had because the alternative was body bags. I need light, she said. In space, everyone out except Cole. Marines hesitated. Fletcher was their friend, their brother. Now, Riley's voice cracked like a whip. Command voice. The one she'd earned through 4 deployments. I can save him, but you need to trust me. They left. Riley worked for 40 minutes. No wasted motion, no excess communication. She clamped the arterial bleed with hands that didn't shake. Packed the worst wounds with quick clot. Inserted a chest tube when his breathing deteriorated. Working by feel and experience because textbooks didn't prepare you for this. Cole assisted, following instructions without question. Watching her hands move with precision that went beyond standard medical training. When it was done, Fletcher was stable, alive. He'd need evacuation within 48 hours. But he'd live. Riley sat back. Her hands covered in blood, her jacket soaked with it, but her hands didn't shake, didn't tremble. Steady as they'd been in Belgium, in Helmand, in Raqqa, because some skills never faded. You just learned to use them differently. Cole stared at her, really looked, not at the limping nurse, at something underneath. That was surgical level work, he said quietly. Where did you learn that? Combat medic school, top of class? No, his eyes narrowed. That was field trauma surgery. Advanced, the kind that takes years of practice under fire. Before Riley could respond, the radio erupted. Sniper down, Rodriguez is hit. We have no long gun, Captain Thorne's voice. Anyone qualified on Barrett? Silence on the net. Then negative, sir. Rodriguez was our only designated marksman. Through the bunker entrance, Riley could see muzzle flashes. 800 meters out. Enemy forces advancing with BTRs, armored personnel carriers, heavy weapons. The Marines were outgunned, outmanned, and now they had no counter to long-range threats. The math didn't work. It never worked. Riley stood, walked to her medical kit, hands steady, decision already made. Ma'am, Cole watched her, confused. She knelt beside the kit, found the hidden release, pressed it. The false bottom popped open. Inside, wrapped in treated cloth, the Macmillan TAC-50 lay in pieces. Cole's eyes went wide. What the fuck? Riley's hands moved without conscious thought. 28 seconds. Barrel, receiver, scope, stock, bolt assembly, magazine well, muscle memory from 1,000 repetitions. The rifle came together like it had never been apart. She loaded it. 15 rounds, 50 caliber BMG, custom loads, hand-selected brass, powder charges calculated for extreme cold. Cole stared, speechless. Riley looked at him. Let him see. Let him see past Riley Brennan, past the limp, past 3 years of lies. My name isn't Riley Brennan. Her voice was different now, harder. the voice of someone who'd made 189 impossible choices. It's Ashton Reeves, call sign Widow 6, 189 confirmed eliminations over 4 deployments. She stood, no limp now, just smooth, powerful movement, the body she'd hidden for 3 years. I died in 2019. Closed casket funeral, Arlington National Cemetery, full military honors. Cole couldn't form words. For 3 years, I've been Riley Brennan, crippled nurse, saving lives instead of taking them, trying to keep a promise I made to a dying man. She picked up the rifle, checked the action. Smooth. Perfect. But sometimes keeping one promise means breaking another. She moved to the bunker entrance, started setting up a firing position. Ma'am Reeves, whoever you are, get Captain Thorne on the radio. Tell him unknown sniper support is active. Tell him to mark targets and get his people under cover. This is interesting. This is War Sergeant, and I'm very good at it. Riley keyed her own radio, Captain Thorne's channel. Captain, this is Brennan. Correction, this is Reeves. I have long gun capability. Request permission to engage. Silence for 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief. Then Thorne's voice tight with stress and desperate hope. Identity confirmed. Widow 6, sir. Marine Scout Sniper. 4 deployments. 189 confirmed eliminations. I can help. Another pause. The sound of a man making impossible calculations. Permission granted. Targets are command elements. 800 meters northeast. We need suppression now. Roger that, sir. Riley settled into position. Bipod deployed, eye to scope. The world narrowed to crosshairs and wind and distance. Through the thermal imaging, she could see them. 70-plus heat signatures. Organized, professional spacing, tactical discipline, Russian Spetsnaz, just like the intelligence predicted. At the center of the formation, one figure stood slightly apart. Radio antenna visible even through the snow, 4 bodyguards in close protection formation. Command element, 740 meters. Riley calculated. Wind 19 knots gusting to 26. Temperature minus 24. Snow reducing visibility. Bullet would drift right. Drop would be significant. Temperature would slow powder burn. All the factors that made this shot barely possible. She made the adjustments. Breathing cycle. 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out, heart rate dropping, 50 beats per minute, 48. The world stopped breathing with her. The trigger broke clean. 2.4 seconds of flight time. The bullet crossed 740 meters of storm-racked mountain air, threading through wind that would have pushed lesser shots 4 feet off target. Through the scope, she watched the Russian commander drop, watched his bodyguards scatter, watched radio discipline collapse into chaos. Target eliminated, Riley whispered. Then worked the bolt. Smooth, fast, already acquiring the second target. Western squad leader, 695 meters, moving between vehicles. She fired. Target down. Third target. Radio operator, 720 meters. Cut their communication. Fired. The operator fell. Fourth target. PKM machine gunner setting up his weapon. 610 meters. If that gun opened up, Marines would die. She fired. The gunner slumped over his weapon. Fifth target. Mortar team spotter. 665 meters. Adjusting for wind. Fired. Target down. Sixth target. Second in command. 780 meters. Trying to rally troops. He moved into a gap, exposed himself for 3 seconds trying to direct fire. She fired. He didn't move again. 6 minutes, 6 kills. 6 pieces of Russian command structure eliminated. Their assault was fracturing. Professional soldiers without leadership becoming just scared men in the dark. The radio crackled. Multiple voices. Marines reporting enemy confusion, enemy retreat, enemy casualties mounting without understanding where the fire was coming from. Captain Thorne's voice cut through. Whoever you are, whatever you are, good shooting. Riley checked her ammunition. 9 rounds left. But there was a new problem. A bullet cracked past her head. 5 inches right, supersonic snap. Someone had found her. Someone good. She rolled left on pure instinct. Snow erupted where she'd been prone. Second shot, closer. This was different now. This was predator versus predator. Riley calculated his position from bullet trajectory. Northeast ridge, 880 meters. Elevated position. Thermal scope good enough to pick up her heat signature through the snow despite her white camouflage. Counter sniper. Spetsnaz fielded them. Had to. You didn't walk into American operations without someone to hunt American long-range assets. She couldn't stay in this position. He had her ranged. Third shot would connect. But moving meant exposing herself, meant giving him another window. So she did what he wouldn't expect, what no rational person would do. She went to ground completely, rolled into a depression, pressed herself absolutely flat, pulled snow over her body and rifle, became terrain, became nothing. Through the scope, barely visible, above the snow line, she scanned the ridge. There, heat bloom, 880 meters, prone position, good discipline, not moving. But he'd lost her. She could see him scanning, searching for the heat signature that had vanished. The problem was her rifle, still warm from firing, still radiating heat. He'd pick it up eventually. She had maybe 30 seconds. Not enough time to relocate. Not enough time to get a clear angle without exposing herself. The radio crackled in her ear. Russian intercept. The intelligence team translating in real time. Victor, this is your shot. The sniper who killed Dmitri is here. Riley's blood went cold. Dmitri, Raqqa, 2017, elimination number 167, ISIS commander coordinating attacks. 1,180-meter shot through sandstorm. The shot that had made her legend. She'd never known his full name. Just another target. Just another threat eliminated. But someone had known. Someone had remembered. Victor, Russian countersniper, brother of the man she'd killed 7 years ago. He'd been hunting her for 3 years, since she'd supposedly died. And now he'd found her. Personal vendetta, professional skill, worst possible combination. Riley made a decision, the kind that would either save her or kill her. She army crawled toward him, straight toward the threat. 20 meters, 30. Using terrain to mask movement, getting behind his scanning arc. The cold soaked through everything, her core temperature dropping, hypothermia creeping in, fingers losing sensation, toes going numb. But she kept moving, because stopping meant dying. 50 meters, 70. She angled east, circled behind his position through a route that kept her below his sight line. Found a rocky outcropping, natural cover, 80 meters closer. New distance, 800 meters. She settled into position, set up the rifle against the rocks, couldn't trust her hands anymore. Body was shutting down. Hypothermia fighting for control. Through the scope, she found him. Still scanning her old position. Still professional. Still patient. Still about to die. Riley's vision was graying at the edges, fingers white and nearly nerveless. The cold was winning, but her breathing cycle held. 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out, like her father had taught her when she was 12. Like Bennett had reinforced through 6 years of partnership. Like muscle memory that transcended conscious thought. The wind dropped. 3-second window. Maybe 4. She fired on instinct more than calculation. The rifle bucked. She barely felt it through the cold and adrenaline and edge of consciousness. 3.6 seconds later, through the scope, Victor slumped over his rifle. Didn't move again. 7 rounds remaining. But Riley couldn't move. Hypothermia had progressed too far. Core temperature too low. Motor control compromised. She tried to stand. Legs wouldn't cooperate. This was how people died in mountains. Not from bullets. From cold that crept in while you were focused on other things. She reached into her medical kit, found the emergency epinephrine auto-injector, slammed it into her thigh through winter gear. The medication hit like electricity, heart rate spiked, vision cleared marginally, muscle control returned just enough. She forced herself up, started back toward the bunker. Every step agony, every movement using willpower reserves she didn't know she had. Through the storm she could hear helicopter rotors, maybe 6 kilometers out, the QRF coming in hot. But they were still 30 minutes from landing. 30 minutes the Marines had to survive. Riley kept moving, one step, another, vision tunneling, body failing. She'd fired 12 shots. 12 Russian command elements eliminated. The professional assault force had become survivors fleeing from a ghost. But the ghost was dying now. Hypothermia critical. Core temperature somewhere in the 80s, maybe lower. 20 meters from the bunker. She could see it through the snow. So close. 15 meters. Her vision graying, legs trembling. 10 meters. Almost there. Almost safe. 5 meters. She collapsed. Couldn't get up. Body simply refused to cooperate anymore. She crawled, dragging herself through powder. The rifle components scattered in her pockets. Had to hide them, had to maintain something of the lie. 3 meters. Voices calling, Marines searching for casualties. 2 meters. So close. She could hear Cole shouting her name. Both names, confusion evident, 1 meter. Her hand touched the bunker entrance. Then darkness took her. The last thing she heard was Russian radio intercept. Translated, urgent, terrified. It's Widow 6. The angel of death is hunting us. She's alive. Alert all networks. The $10 million bounty is active. She's alive. Then nothing, just cold, just darkness, just the price of keeping promises. Cole found her 30 seconds later, collapsed against the bunker. Blue lips, no response to verbal stimuli. Core temperature, critically low. Jesus Christ. He grabbed her, started dragging her inside. Medic, I need. He stopped, realized the irony. She was the medic. Captain Thorne appeared, then Colonel Whitmore, faces grim in the chemical light. Get her inside immediately, Whitmore ordered. Voice controlled but urgent. Warming blankets, hot fluids. She's got maybe 20 minutes before this becomes irreversible. They carried her into the bunker, wrapped her in thermal blankets, forced warm water between lips that chattered against the rim. Her body convulsed with shivers that weren't performance. This was real hypothermia, real danger. Real chance she'd die from cold after surviving everything else. Through the shivers, she managed words, barely coherent. The shooting, so much shooting, I was so scared. Thorne stared at her, at the woman who'd just eliminated 12 enemy combatants in conditions that made shooting nearly impossible. You stayed in the bunker like ordered. She nodded, couldn't speak more. But the story was there, simple, believable if you wanted to believe it. She'd been terrified, stayed hidden, to fabric. Captain, his voice quiet to fabric. Captain, his voice quiet. Her jacket, that's a creek ice formation. I grew up in Montana. I know what creek ice looks like on clothing. Thorne looked, really looked, at the soaked clothing under the jacket, at the ice in her hair, at boots wet through despite being waterproof. She's been in water, recent, within the last hour. They stared at her, questions forming, accusations building. Whitmore stepped in smoothly. She was probably trying to help someone, saw a Marine down, tried to reach them, got disoriented in the storm, fell in a frozen creek. Lucky she made it back at all. It was a good lie, better than Riley could have managed through the hypothermia. Thorne wanted to push, she could see it. But the radios were exploding now, the helicopters overhead, the QRF landing in force. Stay with her, Thorne ordered Cole. Make sure she doesn't die of exposure. We'll discuss this later. He left. Mission demanded his attention. Casualties needed coordination. The official machinery of combat was spinning up. Cole stayed, looking at Riley with eyes that saw too much, that understood something wasn't right. Those shots, he said quietly when they were alone. 12 kills in impossible conditions. That was you. I know it was. Riley's teeth chattered too hard to answer. The rifle in your medical kit, the fake limp, the way you handle weapons, the surgery skills. He leaned closer. You're her. You're Widow 6. Riley met his eyes, shaking, dying, but still making calculations. She could deny it, could lie, could maintain the fiction that had kept her alive and free for 3 years. Or she could trust the man she'd just saved, the way he was trusting her with his life and his questions. Widow 6 died in 2019, she whispered through chattering teeth. Arlington National Cemetery. Full military honors. I'm just a nurse who's very good at saving people. Cole studied her, then nodded slowly. Fair enough, you're just a nurse, a damn good one. He adjusted her thermal blankets. Who saved my life twice now, once with surgery, once with whatever the fuck happened out there in the dark. He stood, moved to the entrance, looked back. Your secret's safe with me, ma'am. Whoever you are, whatever you are, you saved 18 Marines tonight. That's all that matters. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the cold and the hypothermia and the knowledge that the secret was leaking. The Marines would talk, would connect dots, would figure it out eventually. And the Russians already knew. The intercepted radio message played on repeat in her mind. The $10 million bounty is active. She's alive. Every enemy she'd ever made. Every group that wanted Widow 6 dead. They'd know within hours. The peaceful life was over. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of saving lives instead of taking them. 3 years of being Riley Brennan. Gone in one night. But 18 Marines were alive. Owen Sullivan would hold his daughter. Dawson Fletcher would recover. The others would go home to families waiting. She'd kept Bennett's promise. Don't let me be the last one you couldn't save. She hadn't. Whatever came next Whatever price she paid, however many enemies came hunting, she'd kept the promise, and that had to be enough. Outside, the helicopters were landing, the QRF securing the perimeter, the Marines beginning the process of turning chaos into official narrative. Inside, Riley Brennan lay dying from cold. But Ashton Reeves was alive. Widow 6 had risen, and the world would never let her rest again. The shivers racked her body, core temperature climbing slowly, too slowly. But she was alive. For now. That was enough. It had to be enough. Because the real fight was just beginning. Not against Russians, not against hypothermia, against every hunter who'd just learned their prey was still breathing. Against the life she'd built and the legend that wouldn't stay buried. Against the choice between being Ashton Reeves, who killed, and Riley Brennan, who healed. The storm howled outside. Inside, a woman lay suspended between two identities. Two names. Two futures. Only one could survive. The choice would be made in debriefing rooms and official reports and the machinery of military justice. But for now, there was only cold. And the warmth of knowing 18 men would see tomorrow. That was legacy. That was honor. That was everything that mattered. The rest was just noise, just consequences, just the price of keeping promises. And Ashton Reeves had always been willing to pay. Riley woke to white ceiling tiles and the smell of disinfectant. Not the bunker, not Montana, somewhere clean, warm, safe. Joint Base Lewis McChord Medical Facility. 72 hours after the storm, after the shooting, after everything changed. Her core temperature had stabilized at 97.6. Frostbite on 3 fingers healing well. Mild dehydration corrected, otherwise intact. The doctors called it miraculous. They didn't know about the 12 bodies she'd left in the snow. The door opened. 2 men in civilian clothes. Intelligence officers wearing suits that couldn't quite hide the tactical assessments happening behind their eyes. Ms. Brennan, or should we say, Lieutenant Reeves. The older one didn't wait for invitation. Pulled up a chair. We need to talk about Montana. Riley said nothing, waiting. 12 confirmed Russian Spetsnaz command elements eliminated. Conditions that grounded most aircraft. Ballistic evidence of 50 caliber rounds. Witness statements that don't match your story. And radio intercepts identifying you as Widow 6. He leaned forward. General Carver authorized this debrief. Classification doesn't protect you here. So let's skip the games. What happened on that mountain? Riley met his eyes, voice steady. I was in the bunker following Captain Thorne's orders, treating casualties. Corporal Fletcher nearly died. I performed emergency surgery, kept him stable until medevac arrived. When the attack intensified, I tried to help. Got disoriented in the storm, fell in a frozen creek, nearly died from exposure. And the shooting. I don't know anything about that. The younger officer activated a recording device. Don't insult our intelligence. You have suspicions, Riley interrupted. You have Russian radio chatter that could mean anything. You have circumstantial evidence. But what you don't have is proof, because I was doing my job, saving Marines. That's what medics do. 4 hours of interrogation, same questions from different angles, trying to break her story, force admission. She gave them nothing except the official narrative. Medical support, hypothermia, confusion. By hour 4, they were frustrated but beaten. This conversation is classified top secret. Violation means court-martial. Don't leave base. We're not done with you. They left. Riley lay back, closed her eyes, listened to her heartbeat steady and calm. The lie was holding. For now, separate rooms across the base. 18 Marines telling 18 versions of the same impossible night. Staff Sergeant Cole Brennan sat across from the same 2 intelligence officers. His face carved from stone. Professional. Unreadable. Your observations of Nurse Brennan during the engagement. She saved Corporal Fletcher with field surgery I've never seen outside a hospital. Worked under fire. Professional. Competent. That's what I observed. You found her outside the bunker. Suffering severe hypothermia. Creek ice on her jacket. She'd been in water. Storm was hell, sir. Easy to get disoriented. Captain Thorne's theory makes sense. She tried to help someone, got lost, fell in the creek. Lucky she survived. But the rifle, you saw the rifle in her medical kit. Cole's expression didn't flicker. I saw medical supplies, sir. Trauma equipment. That's my official statement. There are rumors about the identity of the shooter. Always are after combat. Marines talk. Doesn't make it true. These rumors say Widow 6, the legendary sniper supposedly buried at Arlington. Cole leaned back, relaxed, almost amused. Sir, I was deployed when that funeral happened. Watched it on base news. 21 gun salute. Full honors. She's dead. Has been for 3 years. Pause, let that settle. Besides, Riley Brennan can barely walk. Widow's 6 set base records for the combat fitness test back in the day. Our paths crossed in Iraq. I remember, they're not the same person. Not even close. The officers made notes, asked more questions, got nothing except loyalty disguised as facts. Thank you, Sergeant. Dismissed. This is classified. Understood, sir. In another room, Private Owen Sullivan sat alone with a single officer. Younger, less experienced at reading people. Owen held his phone. Photo of his daughter on the screen. 3 weeks old when he deployed. 7 weeks now. Growing, healthy, alive because her father had come home. You named her Lily. Why that name, Lily Mae Sullivan, my grandmother's name? Owen looked at the photo, smiled despite the interrogation setting. But everyone calls her Lily Ash. Ash. Short for Ashley, my wife's middle name. He paused, met the officer's eyes. At least that's what I tell people. What's the truth? Owen's jaw tightened. Decision made. The truth is a nurse named Riley promised me I'd hold my daughter. When everyone else was preparing to, she looked me in the eye and promised. Said it like she could see the future. Like she could make it happen through pure will. His voice roughened, and she was right. I'm here. Lily has a father. Someone kept a promise when it mattered most. Did you see Brennan during the firefight? No, sir. I was in my fighting position, trying to stay alive. But you have theories about who saved you. Owen smiled, sad, grateful. I think someone impossible intervened, someone who cared more about keeping promises than staying hidden, someone who understood that 18 families needed their Marines home. He looked down at Lily's photo, and I think whoever they are, they've earned the right to peace, to be left alone, to live without looking over their shoulder. Well, that's not... With respect, sir, that's exactly how it should work. Someone risked everything for us. The absolute least we can do is protect their secrets, honor their sacrifice. Let them have the life they chose. The officer stared. You understand this is classified? I understand perfectly, sir, and my statement stands. I saw nothing except a dedicated nurse who nearly died trying to help. Anything beyond that is just grateful speculation from a father who gets to watch his daughter grow up. The debriefings ran 8 hours, 18 Marines, 18 variations of the same theme. Unknown sniper support, classified asset above our clearance. We don't ask questions, we just say thank you. By evening, the intelligence officers admitted defeat. Too many consistent stories. No hard evidence, just suspicions that couldn't be proven. General Thomas Carver reviewed the reports in his office. 60 years old, hard face etched with decisions most people couldn't imagine. He'd seen this before. Operations that needed fog more than clarity. He drafted the official record himself. Engagement summary. U.S. Marine Training Unit engaged by hostile force estimated 72 personnel. Enemy suffered catastrophic command casualties from unknown friendly sniper support. U.S. casualties 3K, E9YO. Enemy casualties 12K. IA confirmed 47W. IA estimated. Enemy force routed. Identity of supporting sniper element classified under Special Access Program protocols. No further investigation authorized. He signed it, sealed it, filed it where only presidents could access it. Then he visited Riley one last time. She was sitting up when he entered, reading medical journals, professional to the end. He sat without invitation. 12 confirmed eliminations. Range 610 to 880 meters. Visibility near zero. Temperature -24. Wind gusting to 30 knots. Riley closed the journal. Waited. The enemy identified you on radio intercepts. Called you widow. Said it was impossible. Said you were dead. Carver leaned forward. I've read your complete file. Presidential clearance required. 189 confirmed eliminations before Syria. 4 deployments. 6 years. Every decoration short of the Medal of Honor. You were the best we ever produced. Was, sir, past tense. Tonight proved otherwise. I was in the bunker. I didn't stop. His voice cut sharp. I know what happened. Whitmore knows. Half those Marines know. The question is, what happens next? What do you want to happen, General? Reactivate you, put you back in service. We need operators of your caliber. No, that's not a request. Then it's a refusal, sir. Ishta's silence stretched. Carver studying her like a puzzle missing pieces. You understand what you're turning down. The recognition. The honor. the chance to serve at the highest level. Riley's voice stayed level. I understand I killed 189 people as Ashton Reeves, and I've saved 340 lives in 3 years as Riley Brennan. I know which legacy I want. The world needs warriors. The world has warriors. It needs healers more. She paused. I gave you everything, General. 6 years, 4 deployments, my identity, my life. I died to have peace. Please let me keep it. Carver stood, walked to the window, made the calculation. This is your last chance. Next time circumstances force you to break cover, you're reactivated permanently. No debate, no choice. Clear. Won't be a next time, sir. You can't promise that. Yes, sir, I can, because Widow 6 is buried. Let her stay buried. He turned, nodded once. Transfer orders to Richmond, civilian hospital. You leave in 48 hours. Official record shows you were in the bunker, got disoriented, fell in creek, hypothermia. Anyone who says different answers to me personally. He moved to the door, stopped. Those 12 men had families too. Remember that when you're saving lives in Richmond, every enemy eliminated was someone's son, brother, father. The math never balances clean. Then he was gone. 2 days later, Riley was discharged. Clean bill of health, fit for duty, transfer orders in hand. A Colonel Whitmore brought the final paperwork himself. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, coffee between them, no recording devices, just mentor and weapon. You pulled it off, he said quietly. Official record is sealed. Widow 6 was never there. Just unknown support. Classified. End of story. The Marines, debriefed separately, given the same story. Most accepted it. Some suspect. None will talk. He slid the transfer orders across. Richmond, emergency department, fresh start, away from people who might recognize something. Riley took them. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Whitmore pulled out a small key, storage unit number on the tag. The rifle, the Macmillan. You asked me to dispose of it after your funeral. I couldn't. Why not? Because it's part of your history. Disposing of it felt like erasing who you were. He pressed the key into her palm. Richmond storage unit. If you ever need it, if circumstances force your hand, it's there. I won't need it. Probably not, but insurance doesn't hurt. He stood, military formality returning. Take care of yourself, Riley, and if you ever need anything, call. Day or night, I answer. Captain Garrett Thorne was waiting by the transport van, out of uniform, civilian clothes, looking like he'd aged years and days. Captain. Riley or Ashton, I don't know which to use. Riley works fine, sir. He nodded, struggled with words. I wanted to thank you for Fletcher, for keeping him alive, for... He paused. For whatever happened out there that I'll never fully understand. I did my job, sir. No, you did something extraordinary, and I misjudged you completely. Called you dead weight, a liability. I was wrong. His voice dropped, intense. If I'm ever in the dark again with impossible odds, you're the person I want there. The person I'd trust without question. Riley felt something crack. Recognition. Respect earned the hard way. I'll remember that, sir. They shook hands. He left. She climbed in the van, alone with her thoughts and the key to a storage unit and the knowledge that the peaceful life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Richmond Memorial Hospital, emergency department, night shift, the chaos of urban trauma where every day brought new proof of human fragility. Riley was exceptional, hands steady, judgment flawless, the kind of competence that made people trust her with their lives. Nobody suspected the limping nurse carried secrets worth $10 million until the letter arrived. Plain envelope, no return address, postmarked Ohio. Inside a photograph, baby Lily, 7 months old now, sitting up, bright eyes, perfect smile, and a note in careful handwriting. Lieutenant Reeves, you told me I'd hold my daughter. When the world was ending, you made a promise. You kept it. Lily Mae Sullivan is 7 months old today, healthy, happy, loved beyond measure. She exists because you existed in that moment when we needed you most. I named her middle name after my grandmother, but her nickname is Lily Ash. My wife knows why. We both know who really brought me home. Your secret is safe. Always. We owe you everything. We remember. Thank you for being the impossible person who kept an impossible promise. Owen Sullivan, Private First Class, USMC. Riley sat in her apartment holding the photo, tears running down her face. First time she'd cried since Bennett died. 7 months old, growing, thriving, alive because 18 Marines had come home. She put the photo on her refrigerator. Only personal item in the apartment. Only proof that Montana had been real. The mission had mattered. The price had been worth it. 3 weeks later, early morning, Riley jogging through the park, alone. No limp when nobody watched. The black SUV appeared from nowhere. Cut her off. 2 men stepped out. Not government, not corporate. Something else. Something predatory. Ashton Reeves. Not a question, a confirmation. Riley stopped. Assessed. 2 operators, professional bearing, concealed carry under jackets, blocking escape routes. You have the wrong person. The taller one smiled, cold. $10 million says otherwise. Chechen warlord doubled his bounty after Montana. Iranian intelligence matched it. Word is out you're alive. Lots of people hunting. And you think you can collect? We think you're worth more alive than dead. Our employer has a proposition. Use your skills. We protect you from everyone else. Everyone wins. Riley's eyes went flat. The nurse disappearing. Something else surfacing. Something these men should have be feared more. Tell your employer I'm retired. Not interested. Walk away while you can. The shorter one moved closer. Mistake. You can't hide forever. Someone will. Riley moved. 3 seconds. 2 disarmed men on the ground. Their weapons in her hands. Not even breathing hard. She ejected the magazines, dropped them. Stepped back, let them stand. I choose peace. I prefer healing. But I'm very, very good at violence when necessary. Her voice carried absolute certainty. Tell everyone hunting me exactly this Widow 6 wants to be left alone. Anyone who won't respect that learns why 189 people didn't get a choice. She turned, started jogging, called over her shoulder. Next time bring better training or don't come at all. They didn't follow. Word spread fast in the communities that hunted legends. The bounty stayed active. But serious operators started declining contracts. Some prey wasn't worth the price. 8 months after Montana, Riley received new orders. Not deployment, teaching assignment. Marine Base Quantico. Integrated Combat Medicine Program. Training the next generation. The classroom held 30 students. Navy corpsmen, Marine recon, young faces eager to learn skills that would save lives. Riley stood at the front. No limp anymore. Not here. Intensive physical therapy had officially restored full mobility. On the wall behind her bold letters, heal when you can. Fight when you must. Corporal Bennett Cross K. I had 2019 beside it 18 photos. The Montana Marines. All alive, all recovered. Silent testament to promises kept. My name is Riley Brennan. Some of you heard rumors about Montana, about impossible shots in a blizzard, about someone who shouldn't exist. She paused. Let them wonder. Forget the rumors. Focus on reality. Combat medicine isn't choosing between healing and fighting. It's understanding when each matters. When to hold a scalpel. When to hold a rifle. When to save. When to protect. A young corpsman raised his hand. Ma'am, the stories say you made a shot over 1,000 meters in near zero visibility. Riley smiled slightly. What's true is 18 men are alive. The methodology matters less than the outcome. Another student. Do you still carry a rifle? She glanced at the locked cabinet, knew what was inside even though she hadn't opened it in months. Every day, and pray I never fire it again. The course ran 8 weeks, 147 students rotated through over the next year, each learning the integration philosophy, each understanding that specialization had limits, but versatility saved lives. The ripple effects spread beyond her classroom. VA hospitals requested curriculum. 3 states adopted programs. DoD allocated expansion funding. A phrase began circulating through medical and infantry communities. Both hands, one mission. Riley's counter sat on her office desk, updated daily. Eliminations 201,189 plus 12. Montana lives saved 612. The gap closing. Slowly, but closing. One evening after class, she sat alone in her office. Bennett's photo on the desk, dress blues, bright smile, forever 24. Promise kept, brother, all 18 made it home. Her phone buzzed. Text message, unknown number that resolved into a name. Captain Thorne. Simple message, Fletcher got engaged yesterday. Wedding next spring. You're invited if you want. No pressure. Just wanted you to know your hands built his future. Riley typed back, Congratulations to him. I'll think about the wedding. Another text. Different number. Owen Sullivan. Photo attached. Lily walking. First steps. Unsteady but determined. Caption. She's walking, just like her dad who walks because of you. Riley saved both messages, added them to the small collection of proof that her choices had mattered. The door opened. Young Marine, fresh from training. Ma'am, question about the hemorrhage control protocol. Come in. They discussed medical procedures for 20 minutes. Clinical, precise, the kind of knowledge that saved lives when seconds mattered. After he left, Riley updated her files, prepared tomorrow's lesson plan, the routine of teaching, building, creating instead of destroying. Outside evenings settled over Quantico. Marines trained, students studied. The machinery of readiness continued. The rifle stayed locked in its cabinet. The hands stayed focused on healing. The promise stayed kept. Her phone buzzed again. Whitmore, mission brief tomorrow, 0800, medical consultation only, no shooting required. She smiled. Type back. Good, I prefer it that way. I know you do. That's why I called you. Riley locked her office, walked to her car. Easy stride of someone who'd stopped pretending, someone who'd found the balance between warrior and healer. Tomorrow would bring new students, new lessons, new chances to share wisdom earned through blood and snow and impossible choices. The world would keep hunting, bounties would stay active, threats would emerge. But tonight, Riley Brennan slept with peace earned through 18 lives saved, through 612 futures protected, through promises kept when keeping them cost everything. She dreamed of Bennett, not dying but smiling, proud. In the dream, he said, "You found the way. Both paths, killing when necessary, healing when possible. That's what I meant. That's what matters." She woke to sunlight, to the photo of Lily taking first steps, to proof that some promises were worth any price. The rifle could wait in its cabinet. The warrior could rest. The healer had work to do. And Riley Brennan finally understood what her father had known, what Bennett had understood, what Whitmore had tried to teach. The best warriors weren't the ones who never stopped fighting. They were the ones who knew when to put down the gun and pick up something that built instead of destroyed. Both hands. One mission. Heal when you can. Fight when you must. Live knowing the difference. That was the promise worth keeping. Forever. The counter on her desk would keep climbing. Lives saved outnumbering lives taken. The balance shifting toward light. Not redemption. Redemption implied guilt for necessary actions. This was evolution. Growth. Becoming more than the weapon she'd been trained to be. 18 Marines proved it possible. 612 people confirmed it worked. And one woman walking free with her secrets intact showed that some legends deserve to rest. Widow 6 was dead. Riley Brennan was alive. And that was enough. That was everything. That was legacy.